And then he said to me, I'm under arrest. I'm under arrest because he is suspicious that I am a member of Hamas. I was not afraid at all. And in fact, I had guns pointed at me. And I was mocked every time I was praying. What image stays to my mind until today are the amount of children I saw walking in the morning with smiles in their faces, with their backpacks. These are the same children, their school is 2 minutes away, but they have to walk around 45 minutes because there are illegal settlements there. They were walking, going to school alone, and I can see in their face they have hope. And these are the people that will be the future lawyers to hold the Israelis to account. So Masjid al-Aqsa is blessed, the people around it is blessed, the land is blessed, the food is blessed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالتِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونِ, the fig and the tea. This is described in Palestine because it's the land of the fig and the land of the olives. So even the food and everything in it is blessed. Allah decided to bless this land. And any blessed land should not have blood spilt in it. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا كثيرا والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد, brothers and sisters, السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I'd like to thank Taha Foundation for organizing this event. We'd like to thank our brothers and sisters, the attendees today, for taking their time. I'd like to thank my colleagues on the panel, in particular our rabbis, our guests, our seniors. And today, as our brother mentioned in the introduction, we prefer not to be here today, and we prefer not to speak about the genocide and atrocities over again, but unfortunately we have to. Our host asked what is my connection as well as the connection of our panelists today. And the personal connection goes back to my father, who lived in the city of Jaffa. Jaffa is a beautiful city near the sea, near the port, and it has all communities, the Jewish community, the Christian community, the Muslim community, and it's a united community. The relationship between all different faith groups and different ethnic groups, if it's the Orthodox community, the Armenians, was a very strong one for centuries, for hundreds of years. And in fact, my father was brought up and he studied in a Christian boarding school. And his teachers were practicing Christians, his colleagues, and he spoke the Arabic language, the Hebrew language, and the relationship was excellent. Likewise, my grandfather, Sayyid Hajaj, rahimahullah, was a tradesman in Jaffa, and Jaffa is known to be famous for oranges, the citrus fruits, lemons and oranges, and that's why if you've heard of the company Jaffa Cakes, it originates from Jaffa, where traditionally people will bake cakes with using citrus fruits, oranges, and this was something that was sold in Jaffa for centuries. My grandfather lived for nearly 100 years. He passed away in 1996 here in London. So he lived in Palestine under the Ottoman Empire. He witnessed the First World War. He lived under the British rule or British mandate of Palestine. And then eventually he witnessed the occupation, the Israeli occupation. And it was only after the occupation that life became very difficult for my grandfather and his family. He decided to stay in Jaffa, and many others, and in fact one of the first riots that took place and one of the first massacres that took place was actually in Jaffa. It's called the Jaffa riots. My grandfather had a good relationship with the Mukhtar, the Sheriff or the Mayor of Jaffa, and they were very cooperative with each other. They will help those who are poor, they will help those who are more vulnerable, and they were a very united community. Many of the people of Jaffa left And as you all know, and you've heard of the Nakba, people left from the West Bank and people left also from different cities when the state of Israel was recognized. So Palestinians had two choices, either to continue living under the Israeli state, or to fight, or to become refugees. And my grandfather, having generations, having land, lots of land in Jaffa, decided to stay. And he only stayed for 10 years because he was once known to be one of the richest individuals in Jaffa, selling his oranges all across the Middle East, even to Europe, to someone who eventually lost his very large orange grove and lost his home and lost his business, and he was made into a refugee where he fled to Cyprus in the beginning, and then eventually in the 60s with my father and uncles came to London in 1966. My mother, on the other hand, was born in Jordan. She's Palestinian originally, and she was born in a refugee camp in Amman, and she was educated in UN-funded schools. Her father, or my grandfather, was originally from Lifta. Lifta is a small town in the outskirts of Jerusalem. My grandmother, maternal grandmother, is from Al-Quds, Jerusalem. She also lived in Jerusalem before the state of Israel. And she's still alive now. She's nearly 90 years old. She lives in West London, good and healthy, mashallah, may Allah protect her. From the most amazing stories I hear is from my grandmother, where she will describe Jerusalem as if she still lives there. Where she would say, I was 5 minutes walk away from Masjid al-Aqsa. And we used to pray in Masjid al-Aqsa and stay near Masjid al-Aqsa. And we will go to one of the wells. And the wells was where people will keep their fruits cold or in a cool temperature. And she will always describe drinking from the well and playing with her friends and going back home safely. And always my grandmother believes from a young age, I always hear her say that we will come back soon. My grandfather, when he passed away here in London, also believed we will come back. My mother, who never went to Palestine, believes that one day we will come back. Many Palestinian families like myself and others, we still hold the keys to our old homes. My grandfather, maternal grandfather, was made into a refugee and went to Jordan, and he was part of the Nakba, where many people, in particular Lifta, his village, where there were unarmed farmers. There was, until now, it's a very deserted town and village, and not many people live in that town due to what happened before 1948. Even though I'm a British national and I'm born and brought up in the UK, I have to proudly recognize myself as a Palestinian, because worldwide there are more Palestinians outside Palestine and more than inside Palestine. And we believe in the right to return. That every single Palestinian refugee has the right to return to Palestine, and this has been a fight for the last 50 or 60 years. So this is why it's important for Palestinians to not forget their roots, because this war is not just a military war, but it is also a mental war. It is also a war upon the identity of Palestinians, where eventually they would hope that Palestinians will forget about their roots and their nation and their culture. And this is why we believe it's important that we promote our heritage, our culture, our language, our food to people all over the world, so that Palestine is not erased. So Palestine is not stolen. And Palestine becomes stolen, again, not just through military occupation, but through ignorance. That people don't know much about that land. And the Zionist state of Israel deceive people to say this is a Jewish state, when we can confirm today from our rabbis that this is nothing to do with Judaism. and that the government, the Israeli government, from the first president and prime minister to the last one, is far from the practices of Judaism. But this is a deception to wipe out the original culture that existed, the original nation, the original language and the people, to forget about them and to monopolize this land and to wipe out Palestine and the Palestinians from that region. So this is where the injustice and the unfairness, it starts. This is where the roots of why they kill people, why they feel no sympathy, because we don't understand when we hear innocent people being killed. We don't understand when women are being killed. We don't understand what sin did these children do. But for them it's justified because they want to wipe out the identity of Palestine. They fear that child who will grow up and say, I am Palestinian. So they don't see it as a sin. They don't feel guilty or bad to drop drones and weapons in Gaza, knowing that they are killing the majority, or knowing that a large percentage of that population are youth and children. Brothers and sisters, Palestine is important to all of us, not just myself. This is not the land of the Palestinians. This is the land of all of us. And this is the land of our prophets, our leaders, from Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, where Masjid Ibrahim, there's a masjid called Masjid Ibrahim, named after our father, Prophet Abraham. This is in Hebron. And you know, when we speak about the two-state solution and the one-state solution, it's very sad because when some of the people in the Palestinian leadership were deceived to think that potentially there could be peace and there could be a two-state, where they signed the so-called Oslo peace agreement, 3 months after that agreement, 4 months after that agreement, an Israeli extremist in the holy month of Ramadan decided to go to Masjid Ibrahim, the masjid named after the father of all Abrahamic faith. And he decided to, with his weapon, kill 40 innocent people, including children and women, and wound a few hundred others. In the holy month of Ramadan, where people are praying their prayers. Where in Judaism justifies that? How can this person call himself a person of faith, let alone a follower of Judaism, a follower of Musa alayhi salam? Musa is bari, Musa is innocent from these individuals. And he got away with it, of course. And a few months after, the devil that we have today, Netanyahu, came back or became the prime minister and had no intentions to implement this peace plan and no intention to allow the Palestinians to establish their own state from that time until today. Palestine is important to all of us because it is the Holy Land. So anyone of faith, any believer, should see this place as a sacred land. And many places in the Quran, what does Allah describe this place? Al-Ard al-Mubarak, Ard al-Muqaddas, Bayt al-Maqdis, the Holy Land, the sacred land, the land that was blessed, the land where our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam visited. Subhanalladhi asra bi'abdihi, laylan min al-masjid al-haram ila al-masjid al-aqsa, alladhi barakna hawla. Glory be to him, the one who took the night journey from Masjid al-Haram to Masjid al-Aqsa, the place that Allah blessed and whatever is around it. So Masjid al-Aqsa is blessed, the people around it is blessed, the land is blessed, the food is blessed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالتِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونَ, the fig and the tea. This is described in Palestine because it's the land of the fig and the land of the olives. So even the food and everything in it is blessed. Allah decided to bless this land. And any blessed land should not have blood spilt in it, because the same land will testify and will become a witness against any crimes. It should be important to us because if we are people who believe in justice, then we shouldn't accept any occupation, especially in 2024. Occupations ended 50 years ago, 60 years ago, 70 years ago, where France occupied many countries in Africa, and Britain occupied many countries also in Africa and Asia and the Middle East. And today the average person would refute the occupation and would all acknowledge that this is wrong and this is history that we are moving beyond. But unfortunately, there are some people who still believe in occupation, who still believe that some people should be oppressed and some people should be weak, and some people don't deserve liberty, don't deserve freedom, don't deserve to live a happy life. I would like to just end with sharing a personal story when I went to visit Palestine. I went to visit Masjid Ibrahim in 2010. And before going to Masjid Ibrahim, I was very surprised with the amount of security. There was lots of Israeli soldiers and security bases, and we were stopped and searched. Every single person before entering the masjid is stopped and searched, almost like an airport security check. So one of the guys, he did not want to let me in, and he said, "Give me your passport." Unfortunately, I had my British passport, because if I didn't, I would not be treated with a bit of dignity. So as soon as he saw my passport and looked at my face, he started asking me about Hamas. This is in 2011. And he said, "I want you to go and pray and come back and I'll give you your passport later." At that time, Israel were guilty of killing a Palestinian member of Hamas in Dubai. And they killed that person using British passports. So the British government actually, in their travel advice, said, do not give your British passports to anyone when you visit Palestine, especially or including official guards. So I said, I'm not allowed to keep my passport with you. So after checking, can you please return it? I would like to pray and leave. Thank you very much. So that's when he became aggressive. And that's when he refused to return back my passport. And then he said, you're not allowed in. And go to the side. And then he said to me, I'm under arrest. I'm under arrest because he is suspicious that I am a member of Hamas. To cut a long story short, I was arrested. It took 2 or 3 hours for the police car to come and for me to enter the police station. And I had to do a prison break. I won't get into the details about that. But when I left the next morning from the police station, I was feeling very humbled. I was feeling very close to Allah. And throughout that experience, I was feeling so close to Allah because I was praying a lot. And I was making dua a lot. So I really felt strong. I was not afraid at all. And in fact, I had guns pointed at me. And I was mocked every time I was praying. But I still felt, due to the sweetness of faith, very strong and very unafraid. The next morning, I wanted to take a taxi back to Bethlehem. It's like an hour or 45-minute drive from Hebron. And I was so surprised to see at 7 o'clock in the morning, the streets of Hebron was packed with cars and shops that are open and people walking, and especially children. So what image stays to my mind until today are the amount of children I saw walking in the morning with smiles in their faces, with their backpacks. These are the same children, their school is 2 minutes away, but they have to walk around 45 minutes because there are illegal settlements there. That is against every law that even Israel agreed according to their own agreements. They still continued to have around 300,000 illegal settlers in West Bank. And the water and the electricity is distributed to 75% of it is distributed to the Israeli settlers, and 25% of it is distributed to the 3 million Palestinians in West Bank. So this 6-year-old girl and her 7-year-old sister, they were walking, going to school alone. And I can see in their face they have hope. I can see in their face that despite the oppression and the killing and the unfairness, I'm going to go to school. I'm going to be educated. And these are the people that will be the future lawyers to hold the Israelis to account. The future humanitarians, the future activists, the future leaders that will have strong voices. Those who will, inshallah ta'ala, bring back Palestine for the future generations, and those who will be courageous to stand up against the neo-Nazis of today, the Zionist entity that the world, including the West, is afraid to face. We will have the victory and the help, inshallah ta'ala, come from this generation, inshallah ta'ala. And this generation or this future is very close. Wa jazakumullah khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.